Now I am recording.
Cool.
Cool.
How's it going?
It is going well. Have you ever been to my house in Louisville?
That's where we went before my wedding.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's where you guys watched me presumably throw trash on the floor when I was throwing it into my garbage can and you thought I was just throwing it onto the curb. Yes, I do remember this. So I live not generally next to, but in the same neighborhood as a bar. And
Okay.
I died. And it is just close enough to St. Patrick's Day to where every bar is like bananas loud. So if you can't hear them, that's fine. But that's been kind of my general life, living in what could be considered the Highlands. And
Sure. It could
Yes.
it could be generously considered the Highlands.
yes, I live in what could generously be called the Highlands, generously called Nulu, and generously called Butchertown. But I think I live in what is a three-way Venn diagram in which I'm in the direct center of all of them. Not the direct center, like just out of reach of every single one of them. That is like my tiny little road.
I would describe your house as almost in downtown. Like if I was going
okay.
if I was going downtown, if I was going through the Highlands and I was going downtown, I'd be like almost downtown. I'm at Zach's.
Good. I'm doing exactly what you never do, which is giving people almost pinpoint where I am, which is great.
I'll just cut that out now that I say it.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I've made Zach very mad now that I explained exactly where you live. Oh, well, no, you described exactly where you live.
No, I describe where I live, and I'm totally fine doing that.
That's gross.
It's just like, that's just the general juxtaposition of how you and I approach our living situations.
Right. I live
but it's
in
okay.
an American city.
I don't believe they could find me because they'll be looking in Butchertown and Nulu and the Highlands, and they will never be able to find me because I don't live in any of those, yet I live somehow in like the mailing list of all three of them. Like I get mail from people like citizens of the Highlands, and I'm like, that's not really me. And it's like,
really me.
and then like I'm getting mail about, so in Louisville, we have a 2-time championship soccer team, Louisville City, and they are great. And in Butchertown, they're building a stadium because of how awesome they are. They're getting their own little thing. Like,
Instead
well,
of the
not
bats?
little. Yeah. It's like it took us winning one championship, and they were like, yeah, right. And then we won 2, and then they were like, you know what? This actually might have some legs.
Maybe we don't have you in the minor league baseball team.
Yeah. And so
stadium.
they're making their own stadium, which is awesome, which is going to be in Butchertown. And I'm getting a lot of mail about that. Like I didn't even know that these still existed, but like town hall, like neighborhood meetings, those kind of things.
Of course they still okay.
Or just asking me, just being like, hey, do you want to come meet and voice your concerns about this? And I'm like, I don't think I have a say in this, guys. Anyway, this to say,
Go ahead.
In conclusion, I live what would be considered near a bar, and they are playing what I can only describe as the loudest game of trivia of all time.
You can hear it in your house?
Well, I can hear it when I'm outside and I'm near a window, so I guess we're like kind of somehow like it might get picked up. I don't know, but it is hilarious. Then again, this bar is only like 7 doors down from my house, so
I must have missed it. I've only been to your house one time, so I guess I didn't. I always think of your neighborhood, your like the general neighborhood as like this sort of like gray wallpaper area before downtown. It's like, oh, I'm in the Highlands, hooray, let's go downtown, and then it's like something, and now I'm downtown, hooray.
Yeah,
like, I just don't have any idea what's in there.
That is. I would consider that something to be Nulu, which
Nulu? I just said, is that Nulu?
Kind of.
I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't.
Nulu is a place that got. So this happens a lot. So people that have this happen in maybe their cities. Nulu is an area of Louisville that got a lot of press because it was being this like new gentrified area, and it was going to bring in all these cool businesses. Yeah. And that happened a number of years ago. And most of Nulu is still just vacant buildings that it's like you'll go and like Albeit, yes, you will walk past a yoga studio and then a place that serves acai bowls. And then next to that's a coffee shop, which is bordering another coffee shop. And then and then it's like 6 empty buildings and then a barber shop next to like a chicken restaurant and then these like giant hotel. But it's still this like very odd, like in the middle of gentrification sort of area where it's like I feel like a lot of the ideas that people have for that area are ideas you would have in a food truck, but not necessarily its own restaurant. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
are you saying like the kinds of ideas you would have while sitting in a food truck, or an idea for a food truck?
No, an idea that would, it's like, so for example, when you see some food trucks, like a fusion of like 2 types of foods, it's like, oh man, that exists. That's a perfect food truck, but I wouldn't dedicate a whole restaurant to this.
Got it.
And I feel like most of the ideas are like, hey, do you want to see our shirt? And it's like, oh yeah, let's see your shirt. Do you have another shirt? No, this is the shirt.
Shirt they sell one shirt?
There is one place that sells, and it's very, I don't know. It might be one of those like very artistic things, but you walk in and there is no joke 6 shirts, and it's this whole storefront, and you walk in and there is one person in there, and all of the shirts generally have the same design, and you're just kind of looking around, looking at all 6 of these shirts, and it's like, well, I don't want any of these 6 shirts, so I'm leaving. And then you like walk out, and I'm like, I don't know how this place manages.
Well, I would say
that's a place that's in my neighborhood.
I would say that you should shout it out, but even if this podcast comes out in a week, there's literally no way that place will be open by the time someone hears this.
No, that place has been open for years, and I will give that place a shout out. I'll give that place a shout out. It's called Blowfish, BLOFISH, Blowfish, and they're doing great. Like, I see people wearing one of those very few shirts all of the time. Weird. Like, they're cooking in Louisville, and I do not understand it, but that is, I'm assuming that I am saying something out of ignorance, and I'm going to get like, destroyed by like, oh, the people that opened it have this really crazy story, or something like that, and then I will rescind all my comments. But for right now, I still, from an outsider's perspective who doesn't know the making or the market of that place, it is odd when you walk in there and it's like, oh, this seems to be like a place that would be located in a broom closet in Williamsburg. But it's, anyway, that's kind of, that's generally where I live. I live in that store. I run that store.
Great. That's your store. You own 6 shirts. Please give me money for more shirts.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something earlier about you're building a new soccer stadium, and Nashville is also building a new soccer stadium. Now, granted, I'm not, saying my city's better than yours, but we are getting an MLB team. Boo. But anyway, so they recently brought Nashville SC to town like 2 years ago, and it was doing really well. It was in the Sounds Stadium, which is our minor league baseball team, and now they're building it a like football stadium for when it goes to. Did I say MLB? I meant MLS.
Yes, you did, but I think that I got it from context.
Yeah, that sort of makes sense that the soccer team is not becoming a Major League Baseball team. So they are a Major League Soccer team, and similarly, they're building this football stadium, and there have been a lot of town meetings about it, but they are the craziest town meetings that I like. They drive me up a wall. There's an article about it like every single day, and it is the most crazy thing I've ever seen.
Are you going to these town meetings?
No, but I read about them. I've been to city council meetings, but like mostly I just read about them in the paper. But basically, a couple years ago, they signed a contract saying, hey, we're going to build this football stadium in the fairgrounds, which is this neighborhood. It's kind of this residential neighborhood, but then there's, of course, the actual fairgrounds where they have the fair, and it's got like a racing track, and like it's cool. It's like a drag racing track, and it's like a cool place or whatever. And they're like, we're going to build it there. And it's like, okay, great. And the deal they struck was basically we are going to give you several $1 million a year to pay for this place, and then you need to make up the remaining like $9 million. I think MLS is giving us like $20 million a year for the stadium, for construction and upkeep, and then we have to make up the remaining $9 million. The city does, but the plan is to pad it into ticket sales, so it'll be tax neutral. Like I think, again, don't at me, but like as far as I understand, the plan is tax neutral, in that MLS is going to pay for most of it, and then the ticket sales from the games will pay for the remaining amount, right? Mm-hmm. So seems great. Seems like a great thing and a great... well, a little background on the city. A year prior to that, or a few months prior to this whole fuss, there was this big transit plan that was proposed in the city, and there was going to be a new train, and there was going to be all this, and they were going to dig a tunnel, and there were going to be all these buses, and it was this big thing, and it was huge, and it was proposed by the mayor at the time, Mayor Barry, who was super popular. This woman, Megan Barry, and she was just like really progressive, really popular. Everybody loved her. She was a big, all about the Preds and everything, and so like everybody's stoked about Mayor Barry and her transit plan, right? I was sold on this. This was like my favorite issue, and I was like psyched up about this transit plan because Nashville's growing so much. We really do need to fix the traffic problem, and it's a problem that I have a lot of thoughts on. I think it would be boring to get into all of them right now, but why there is so much traffic in Nashville, and like what about the geography of the town and like kind of the economics of the county, why there is so much traffic, and why a lot of people's proposed solutions are either made in bad faith or also just not a solution. But a train, I think, would help. So I was all about this transit plan because we do need to fix transit in Nashville if we're going to continue to expand. Certainly now that Amazon's moving here, there's 5,000 people that are going to move into downtown, which is the biggest job expansion in Tennessee history. So like, a train would be great. But as you might be able to tell from the way I'm telling the story, it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out because the vote is in May, right? This is in the past. The vote is in May. Well, in November or December, turns out Megan Barry has been having an ongoing affair with her security guard.
Oh, right. I think you alluded to this last week.
Did I say I used to like the mayor and now I'm very mad at her?
Yes, we were talking about small town politics because I was talking about that documentary I saw where there was a guy running for mayor and the current mayor was like drunk on his own power. And then you were like, that's not too unusual. And then you talked about, I think this might've been a while ago, but then you talked about, your mayor ex-mayor, what have you.
Former mayor,
yes. And I don't know if you alluded into the reason why, but you were like scandal.
So my ex, Megan Barry, my ex-mayor, Megan Barry. So the former mayor, Megan Barry, so she had an affair. It was with her security guard, something. Now this goes into a whole different story, but just for the short term, people are worried because it's like, well, did she have extra security detail, or did she go on extra trips, or did she have security detail when she didn't need it? Because she was sleeping with her head of security, right? And it became this big scandal about money. Now, she gets audited by the city, but it comes back that there was no wrongdoing. If you're interested, we can we can put a pin in that. But again, I don't know how interested you are in local Nashville politics. Anyway,
I love that. I want to put a pin in it. Or finish it now, only so this can be a continuing segment, is like this unraveling of the rise and fall of the mayor of Nashville.
It's a heck of a story. Well, no, I can't finish it now because it would be too much of a tangent, because I would have to go into this whole other story about this other thing that's currently happening. But
can't wait. I cannot wait for the continuation of this.
Yeah. The point is, she gets audited and comes up that she is not found to have committed any criminal acts, but still the city is very, very mad at her. I particularly am mad at her because, well, I'm mad at her. And then also it's like, hey, you this transit plan has got your name all over it. Like, the city needs this to pass, and you kind of are like, you're the face of it, and now everyone's mad at you. Mm-hmm. And maybe this was later in the year. I feel like the story broke in November, but it was sometime around there, because in March, she then stepped down as the mayor. And she stepped down as the mayor. Oh, right. I was like, what was the point of that story? Sorry. She steps down as the mayor. We elect a new mayor, Mayor Briley. He's the current mayor. I guess that's important for context. Her vice mayor, the vice president, whatever. Her vice mayor. They have an election. He gets elected, but in May, that's in June. In May, they come up with the vote, and the transit bill gets shut down. Okay.
Oh, no.
Overwhelmingly, it loses. Now, part of why it lost was this guy, David Carr. I really want to check his name. I think it's David Carr. Boy, I ought to check that. Okay, I'm not going to. There is a guy whose last name is Carr who ran for mayor, and I don't like. But it would be a little on the nose for this guy to be the same guy. There's a guy who ran this, I felt really dishonest ad campaign against the transit plan. His big platform is this transit bill is going to cost each Nashville family $4,500, which is a lot of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And that's a couple of dollars.
That's a lot of dollars. He did fail to emphasize. It's in the literature on his website, to be fair. But in the commercials that he ran all over TV, he did fail to emphasize that that $4,500 was accounting for inflation and over 50 years. So over the course of 50 years, accounting for inflation, because I read his research and walked through the numbers, right? So that would be like saying in 1968 or 1969, saying it's going to cost, over the next 50 years, it's going to cost $10,000. Accounting for the fact that $1 in 2017 is really different than $1 in 1969. Does that make sense? What I'm saying about accounting for inflation?
Yes.
So if you're saying it costs $4,500 over the next 50 years, accounting for inflation, then 90% of that amount of money is all going to be in the future, because $1 now, or sorry, $1. Yeah, $1 now would be $10 then. So the percentage of that amount of money per year would keep going up, because it's going to be the same percentage of your income, but it's that percentage is going to keep going up and be a larger and larger dollar amount. So it's really
wait. Pause.
Okay.
Can you? I don't know a lot about inflation.
Okay.
Can you adjust for future money?
You can adjust for what you expect. If you expect that inflation grows at a constant rate. Does that make sense?
But does it? No, I mean,
yeah. I mean, generally thereabouts, because the economy grows at a constant rate. No, it doesn't. The economy does not grow at a constant rate. There is an average that you can sort of estimate off of. And if you take that average and you say okay, well, this is how much money is going to be in the system, this is how much inflation will have grown, then you can say, because what it was a tax on mostly was sales tax. So it was a 0.5% increase in sales tax over the first 8 years or whatever, and then over the next 5 years after that, it'd be another 0.5%. So it's going to be a 1% increase. Oh my God, this is boring. I promise. So over the 50 year, so they would increase the sales tax by 1%. So it'd be a 1% increase in sales tax on everything you buy.
Okay.
Right. So
yes.
When you're using dollars, right, it's kind of misleading, because the percentage does not continue to go up, but the dollar amount will continue to go up because of inflation. So in the same way, in 1969, you could go to school for, $800. For a year of college was $800, right?
I'm assuming, yes.
Yeah, let's just, okay.
Let's assume it's $800.
It's $800. If you told them in 50 years, college is going to cost $10,000 a year. It's not, I mean, yes, college tuition did go up, but also
to which they'll respond, "You're from the future. What else happened? Sorry."
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like,
drive off.
It's like money is more, or like bread cost, a nickel, and now it costs $2. It's not because the price of bread increased all that much. It's just inflation, right?
Yes. Well, okay. Welcome to economics with Zach and Sam.
This is Planet Money.
Yeah. So I went to a macroeconomics class once, and I almost never went to that class because one time, it was during the third week of that class, the professor walked in, he started to teach, got a phone call, looked at all of us and said, "Class dismissed," and then walked out. And there wasn't class that Friday. It was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. He walked out within the first 5 minutes on a Wednesday and then did not show up on Friday. So after that, motivating myself to go to that class became super difficult. And he didn't take attendance. It was the weirdest thing.
So you don't.
I don't know anything about economics because of that professor, presumably. That was a really fun time in my life. It was during a time when I was already prone to be skipping classes a lot because I had to walk to campus, and I just really didn't want to do it. Anyway, so inflation is when.
I'm just yes or no. Has what I said makes sense of why accounting for inflation?
Yes,
giving a dollar amount is dishonest.
I know. Yes, I know it exists. I know that doing that is dishonest because you are you're saying the truth, but it's like a wink truth. You're saying it. Yeah, it's like one of those truths that's technically true, and then you can get away with it. It's like sneaky, you would say something that's technically true, and then when people call you out on it, you're like, well, it's technically true.
Right. If you said in the future bread will cost $800, you'd be like, oh my gosh. And it's like, well, yeah, but also everyone makes $1 million a year because of inflation. It's it's not the percentage of money out of your life that it's going to cost to take bread does not go up. It will cost the same relative. So saying $800 doesn't mean anything because it's 50 years in the future. Also, even dividing it by 50 years would not be that much money per year, but it was also kind of inflation. It was very dishonest. The guy who later ran for mayor and got whooped, which was fun to watch, was all about taxes and how much taxes it would be. But you might ask, well, wait a minute. If it wasn't actually that much taxes, why would he lie about it? Which is always a good question. Why lie? If your real issue is the issue, why don't you just say your real issue? So if you're lying, okay, this must not be your real issue. Turns out the guy heading the no tax for tracks program owned a car lot. And really didn't want trains to come into the city because he owned a car lot.
Yes. That is the type of scam artistry that I am into.
So, no tax for tracks overwhelmingly wins. The transit plan, which would have been a great idea, doesn't go through. The mayor steps down. Big political scandal. So then, every rubber-necked, spineless politician in this town, not all of them, but all of the rubber-necked, spineless politicians,
go off.
Immediately turn around and are just like, actually, I don't like transit or taxes. I'm sorry, I never said I liked them. Like everyone except the current mayor did a complete about face and was just like, Mayor Briley did a complete about face and was like, yeah, we hate taxes too. We're sorry. No, we never liked taxes. Because what they took from that is like, oh, well, the transit plan failed because no one wanted to pay taxes. And so if I want to win re-election, I have to be very anti-tax. Which was true, but also but also the guy lied. If you were going to charge everyone if you were going to send everyone a bill the day it passed for $4,500, you probably wouldn't get reelected. But as long as you don't do that, which no one was proposing, then it'll be good. So, they want to build this soccer stadium.
Yes, and then now we're into the rest of the clause.
Which they have already signed the contract for, and as I mentioned, will pay for itself. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And all these rubber-necked, spineless politicians
I'm going to put a quick pause on that. I think your definition of rubbernecked is different than my definition of rubbernecked.
I understand it also means people in traffic, but I sort of I'm using it as an illusion to say like they're looking one way and then they just like warp, like flip the other way because they're just like, oh, I'm looking this way, but their neck is it's like being spineless. They just sort of like.
Rubbernecked sounds like something that you would call a politician like back during the days. Like it feels like that would be a throwaway line in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or All the King's Men.
It's not. It's a throwaway line, or it was a throwaway line on this episode of Get Better, but now apparently we're talking about the phrase rubbernecked.
I don't know. I just think it just sounds like a funny thing to say about a politician. It feels very old, very classic. Well, I like it. Continue.
Does it make sense what I'm trying to convey?
Yes, it does.
Great, awesome, success.
Okay.
So they all come out and they're like, there are people in the neighborhood who have suddenly realized that this years-old contract to build this soccer stadium is now actually going to happen. And they're like, oh, we don't want this in our neighborhood. And it's like, hey guys, you needed to come to a much earlier meeting. Like this paperwork was signed years ago. Like this is this is absolutely 100% happening. And all these politicians come out and they're just like, yeah, taxes are bad. We don't want to have to pay for all these taxes on this stadium. You get it, guys. You know, taxes, the thing we all hate. Please like me. I'm sorry. And it was really frustrating to watch. And these people who lived in the neighborhood, which were blowing my mind, they didn't have a slogan like no tax for tracks. No tax for tracks. Everyone knows there's a transit plan. While I don't like those people, it's a good slogan. I get it. Yeah. No tax for tracks. Got it. Train tracks, no taxes. Got it.
Yeah, it was a summer hit. Yeah.
So the poster boards or the lawn signs that came out against the fairgrounds thing were what is it? No MLS stadium, right city, wrong neighborhood, honor the 2013 contract.
Yes. That goes right off the tongue.
So much that I don't remember it, but I remember there was right city, wrong neighborhood. And these guys on the city council would come out and they're just like, okay, let me explain this. And this is what all the articles are that are so crazy making to listen to. Because you're reading the article and they're like, hey guys, the contract we signed says it has to be in the fairgrounds. If we move it, the MLS will leave. Like there is not a situation where we get the team, but it's not at the fairgrounds. Like that's not how this works. 100%. This is what has to happen. And like these guys who are just trying to win some political favor would come in and try to gum up the works. So there was this one guy and I think he was a councilman. He wants to put up a vote on the renovation money that would be used to renovate the fairgrounds, because that was a part of the deal. Is they would clean up the fairgrounds, the outside, the stuff that's not the stadium but other parts of it would get cleaned up. And if that didn't happen, if the fairgrounds didn't get renovated, then the stadium couldn't get built. So it was a really dishonest thing to do. I mean, it was a, kind of a shady thing to do, because he's like, yeah, well, I really think the people need to vote on these evil taxes to renovate the fairgrounds. Wink, wink. And it's like, I understand that you're trying to win favor with the people who have suddenly realized that there is going to be a stadium in their neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about the fairground money. It's not that you just think like, well, we need to vote on this fairground money because the people want to know about this fairground money. Like, no, you're trying to, if it becomes a public referendum and the people vote against the fairground money, then that breaks part of the contract and the MLS team doesn't get to come here. And literally these articles are just councilmen, or the head of finance for the city council just saying, no, and also that's not the kind of thing we vote on. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we don't, like, that's not that kind of money, that category of money, we do not vote on. And this just happens over and over and over again, where these politicians would come up and they're just like, well, I think I really think we need to vote on painting the fire hydrants, and they're like, no, I'm sorry, we're building the stadium. You should have come to an earlier meeting. Because the thing was like, this is something we talked about years ago, and everyone voted on it. Everyone was cool with, and like suddenly these people woke up and were like, you know what? Actually, I've decided way after the fact, I don't want this stadium, and you should listen to me. And it's like, no, dog, it's not gonna happen. They're gonna, and like, of course they are, and like they're building it. Like that's what's happening, right? but it's been this like ongoing, dragging political drama of people suddenly realizing that something has happened in their neighborhood, and they're like, oh, now I have an opinion and need to be listened to. And it's like, you understand that we signed paperwork and what you're asking for is impossible. Or we just get rid of the entire, the whole idea of right city, wrong neighborhood. It's like, well, what is the right neighborhood? Just not yours?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, should we just like bulldoze a poor neighborhood and put it there? Because the fairgrounds already exist. Like, where would we put it exactly if not on top of someone else's already house? Like, the fairgrounds can fit it. Why don't you just... But they're like, no, we want the team. We just don't want it in our neighborhood. And what's going to happen is these bunch of yuppies are going to, as soon as it's built, going to buy a bunch of T-shirts and scarves and go, oh, man, isn't it so great that we can walk to the soccer games? And it's like, of course it's great. You can walk to the soccer games. You have a soccer stadium behind your house. That's amazing. Like, the games aren't going to go until midnight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This isn't Europe. Like, it's not like there's soccer games. They're going to be over at 9, and you're going to go and have season tickets and be very happy. Like, why were you complaining in the first place?
Well, I mean, you gotta hear both sides. Is this going to? I'm not familiar with Nashville actively. Well, now I'm extremely familiar with Nashville. But are the fairgrounds? Is that a neighborhood where people live?
The fairgrounds is not a neighborhood. Wedgwood, Houston is a neighborhood with the fairgrounds in it. The fairgrounds is like a complex. It's like the fairgrounds in Louisville.
Okay.
There's a neighborhood that surrounds the fairgrounds in Louisville, kind of. But no, the fairgrounds is like a place. It'd be like if they built a soccer stadium where Kentucky Kingdom is.
I was literally about to make that exact same reference.
That's your fairgrounds, right? Like,
yeah.
It'd be like if they built it there, and it's like, right? Like, this is where we're gonna build it in this complex, in this like fair complex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People have just decided that suddenly they don't want it in their neighborhood. And it's like, dog, we had a meeting about it a long time. We had a lot of meetings about it a long time ago.
Well, I mean, but did the people of that area have any control over those meetings? Like, was that just a thing where it was MLS and the people of the government of Nashville? Like, did they have a say?
It was an open topic talked about, and if they had an issue with it then, if they had paid attention to the local government and had an issue with it then, that this thing was going to be happening, because we've had the team and the team has been here. They could have made, that's what I mean by you should have come to an earlier meeting. Like, if they had made this stink about the fairgrounds before that, then maybe it would have been moved somewhere else. If the whole neighborhood had come up and been like, we're really mad, then their representatives would have said, no, I'm not voting for this, and caused a problem, and maybe it would have moved. I don't know if it would have moved there. But what I'm saying is, after the contract has been signed and it is officially being built there, that is not the time to then suddenly decide, oh, actually, you know what, I don't want it here. Well, that's not really how this works. We're building it.
Well, I mean, I think that's, that people always want to kind of rise up again. I don't know if you heard about what happened with the New York City Amazon headquarters. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, passingly.
That is one of my favorite things in the whole world. It is I think maybe it's just the way it was phrased to me, but it was just this very much. So Amazon is a company, and a rather large one.
I think our listeners probably know that.
I mean, you don't know when will this come out?
Sure.
Yeah. So there is this. So Amazon was going to have two headquarters, one in Virginia, I believe, and one in Queens, New York, and a lot of people in the neighborhood of Queens did not want it there. And then there was this whole big stink about how it was going to create several thousand jobs for the people of New York City. But the people in those neighborhoods were like, absolutely not. That's going to bring people that are just going to cause that's just going to push us all out, because no one that lives here is going to work there. Maybe a few, but not the entirety of the thing. It's going to be people that are moving to New York City to work at this headquarters.
Correct.
And then they dipped and whipped, and they got into some like really specific zoning laws with the council, and now the thing that made the whole deal fall apart was just some like city council that had like some zoning issues with it, and then the whole deal fell apart because a bunch people in a neighborhood like rose up and like made a stink, which is like, it's the most like old New York versus new New York thing in the whole world. Like, because like the people in New York, like the people that are using Manhattan as a kind of rich people playground, and the people that are moving into Williamsburg and taking over that whole area, they would have been totally fine with there being an Amazon plant there because, you know, they moved to New York. They're not from there, or like they have the ability to live there in a way that's comfortable. Whereas the people in this neighborhood, like, it reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw the Hey Arnold movie, which is a great tale about gentrification and warring against it. But Arnold and the gang are warring against this, I think it's a shopping mall being put in where they live, and they cause this whole big thing, and the deal falls apart because a bunch of people from the streets just like didn't want it there. And it's like, it was Amazon, this multi-billion-dollar corporation, versus like a couple of people, and the couple of people won. And that is one of my favorite things in the whole world. And maybe the people in Nashville thought the exact same thing was going to happen to them.
But it's a soccer stadium,
I guess. But I mean, like, you know, no
one
and like,
also,
no,
also
it's
Amazon
also,
is coming
and also
to
it's
Nashville.
your soccer stadium.
Yeah, and Amazon is literally coming to Nashville, and not everyone, a lot of people are stoked about it.
I think I just like
literally the same company is coming to Nashville.
Yeah, I just have this view of like, at the coffee shop that I work at, there is this one customer who comes in who is from she was raised in Brooklyn in the 1970s. So she is from 1970s New York. And it just seemed like it was a sequel to Mad Max Fury Road, that there were no rules. There were no rules in New York back in the 1970s. And it was just insanity forever. And it just feels like every once in a while you hear a story where like that version of New York kind of comes out again, that it is seen now as this like shining example of a metropolis where like all dreams come true and all good things happen. But every once in a while that old New York will come out, and it's just like a bunch of angry people that are from this post-apocalyptic wasteland. And I love that. I feel like that is just, it's so scrappy and fun. I don't know. I feel like as a guy living comfortable in a mid-small city, I can say these things because it doesn't affect me at all. But I think I just love the scrappiness of old New York, and the stories she tells us are always like, there is no way that happened, and like, but the look in her eyes is very much like, yes, it did. It was insanity back then.
That's funny. I'm reading the article about the fairgrounds right now, and they're talking about the lawsuits, and so far I don't think I'm wrong, but I don't know.
Did you find out the name of that one guy?
Oh no, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm
not gonna put him on blast, you know.
I mean, I guess now I'm on Mayor Megan Barry's Wikipedia page, and I'm seeing if maybe immediately I can just very quickly find a link to the transit plan. But if not, I don't want to sit here and just read Wikipedia on light rail service. Oh my gosh, Let's Move Nashville was the name of the program. Local referendum. Come on, give me a link to No Tax for Tracks.
This is some good
This is not
content.
good. Yeah, why did you ask me to do this? This is not what I'm doing.
I didn't ask you to do that.
Close.
Well, I kind of asked you to do it, but...
You kind of asked me to do it. Anyway, long, boring story later. The fairgrounds are going to have a football stadium, and it's going to be cool. And I think what makes me frustrated with it is the idea of, like, we are okay with it being built in this city. Like, the phrase right city, wrong neighborhood is frustrating to me. And I know that this is a fun show, and so we don't need to dwell on it, but it's like, oh, so you think that having it in a neighborhood would be disruptive and crappy and bad. I don't think that, but you do think that. You think whatever neighborhood it moves to, that will be bad and harmful for the neighborhood, which is why you don't want it in your neighborhood. But you do want it, just not in your neighborhood. You're okay with it being a problem in someone else's neighborhood? Like, that is frustrating to me. And maybe I'm misrepresenting their views. That was the impression that I was under, was that people didn't want it in their neighborhood because it was some sort of problem.
Yeah, I do get that. Like with the with the context, like, I think you can like kind of make that claim because like with the context, like wherever you're listening to this, you can probably think of an area in your city where there's just a big nothing happening. For Bowling Green, it is the Hobby Lobby parking lot. It is gigantic, and no one ever goes into Hobby Lobby. That was a joke, but I mean, like, so Bowling Green has this unnecessary municipal airport. It is bananas to me that it still exists. And it is just...
Wait, where?
Exactly.
Where is the municipal airport?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Bowling Green, the city that I'm from, it has this airport in the middle of like what is prime location, just off of like this major intersection. If you follow that intersection just down a little bit more into the country, on your right is this gaudy funeral home with a fountain that has like water going all the time, which I always thought was kind of like, I don't know. It always felt kind of disingenuous to me. And on the left, you're going to see this empty field with just airplane hangars, like for a very long time, and just like little crop dusting airplanes that people just zip and weave and fly out with all the time. And it is deeply unnecessary. And so in my hometown, like you can definitely see there is possibility for growth, and there is possibility for something better or more useful going in there that would bring the city together. And so, yeah, the implication. So if it's like, if people that live up around the airport were to say right team, wrong neighborhood, just being like, it kind of deals back to like, I want all the good stuff, but without the bad things. You know, like I want to have the soccer team, but I want it to be someone else's problem, which I think is unkind. Because I think the one thing you alluded to, it being because there's not, as far as I can tell, because it's a fairgrounds, there's nothing there. And so like the only other place it would be like, for the example of when they put the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, like they just had to go over tons of residential areas because that's all that was there. And then they put this, like the Yankee Stadium, the representation of New York sports, in the Bronx, in an area that's very impoverished and could use a lot of like infrastructure. But they just like plopped this like multi-million-dollar, possibly $1 billion stadium, and then like bounced out and didn't do anything to help people around. And it's like, this could have been somewhere else, like more in Manhattan or like somewhere where like it would make way more sense. But instead you put it like, you bulldoze all this poor area because it was cheaper. And then you put this here. So like, I think the implication, not the one that I'm trying to say they're making, but the implication is, yes, like was saying that like if this isn't the right neighborhood, then where is? And is it
right.
is it where someone already is?
Right, like this is a big complex for events for the city. And reading into it, and maybe I am misrepresenting, I don't know, no one's ever going to listen to this, so it doesn't exactly matter. But not that I'm going to cut it, I just don't think like I'm Mark Maron. You know what I mean? Like I think we do a good show, but I really think that by the time that if this show takes off, I don't think it's going to take off like before this. I don't care. Whatever. Be mad. What they're alleging.
There's the Sam that I went to college with.
Be mad. Yeah.
Be mad.
What they're stating is that they're afraid it will mess up the Tennessee State Fair. And like, it's going to mess up the drag racing in the State Fair, which will all still be there. It's just like the construction will cause a problem. I don't really know. I don't really understand the argument. They're not getting rid of the fairgrounds. They're just putting the stadium in the fairgrounds complex. Like there's a bunch of like porticos and stuff, or like big, like the big shed things that you have a fair in. And like those are there. They're not tearing those down. Like they're not getting rid of the fairgrounds. They're just putting this in the maybe I misunderstand. Maybe I'll come back next week and be like, I read about it. Whoa, yeah. Right city, wrong neighborhood. Am I right? Yeah, well, like maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but I don't know. It's frustrating.
This is something fascinating to me. I meant to ask you about it. I don't know. I didn't mean to ask it. I meant to actually text you, but I completely forgotten. I don't know how, because I found this thing so interesting, and I was like, if anyone knows about it, it's Sam. Sure. I saw this documentary on Vice, shout out Vice, where they talked about illegal street racing is making a giant scene in Nashville. Guess not.
Guess. There's a motorcycle club that runs through my neighborhood a bunch.
Oh my gosh, no. Okay, so you got to find this thing. It is like there are these gargantuan like street meets where like everything you would think happens in a Fast and Furious movie happens in real life, and it's happening in your city. And like this camera crew follows them around, and like they like go like and meet up with all these crews that are doing all these like modifications of their cars, and like every month or so they just have these gigantic street meetings.
Okay, well, I found an article on Channel 5.
The most reliable of the channels in Nashville.
It's a channel. Illegal street racing causes big chaos. Now, wait a minute. I remember this thing they're showing a picture of. So this guy a couple of weeks ago on the highway just started doing donuts, and it was out of control. Like, here, I'll send it to you in the robot. It is this crazy thing that this guy like in the middle of the highway just started like doing donuts, and but it seemed like it was an isolated event, right? It wasn't like I didn't think it was a part of a larger conspiracy. I thought it was just like, oh, this guy, yeah, because all these pictures are the same guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will have to look into this Vice documentary, Illegal Cars Meet Nashville Sideshow.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, tell me more about this thing in my town. I feel like
I mean, basically all you need to know is just what I told you. Like, it's just following these, because it kind of like makes it into a human story where it's like, oh, let's see. It kind of does this thing where it's like, it puts into the existence that there is this insane thing happening, and then it kind of takes the route of like one of those Discovery Channel shows where it's like, well, let's meet the crews and see who's gonna win. It's like, no. I don't care about that. I care about logistics. I care about, because it seems to me that these things are so gigantic, and like Nashville's a big city, but like it just feels like a lot more people would be reporting on this, or maybe they're trying to keep it under wraps. I don't know, but it just seems like all like, because the camera crew's following them around, and none of them are scared about the laws being broken or anything. They're just like like just walking around, just being fully unaware of all the havoc they're causing. And it seems so easy to do. Like at one point in the little documentary thing, a guy is like, okay, so here we are at my shop, gives the name of his shop. Like, I don't know, remember where it was, but he gives the name of his shop and like presumably where you can find it. And then it's just like, yeah, you show up, you ask around, you'll find the right people, just essentially inviting anyone. Like you could just walk in that shop and be like, hey, when's the next street race thing? And it's like, oh, it's Tuesday at 9 at this area. Cool. Thanks.
I'm a cop. Right.
Yeah. So like it was bizarre to me how lackadaisical everyone was about it. Everyone was just like, yeah, so anyway, about 20 minutes in, the cops show up, we all got to leave. And it's like, wait a minute, you host these gigantic meetings where all these people just somehow know where to go. And then within 20 minutes, like, I don't know, a race or 2 or 3 happen, the police show up, and it's like, all right, time to dip, but it's okay because we already scheduled the next one, and we're a very connected group. I don't know.
Man. You just don't get it. You don't live your life 1/4 mile at a time. Man, here's what the Tennesseans' take on it is, which is, I'm going to read you one line. Still in its infancy, a small number of Nashville-based car fanatics have begun to build up a community, the documentary shows. And there's only like 8 lines to this story. Not to say the Tennessean is like a great newspaper. They're a exactly fine newspaper who has typos in all their stories, and it drives me absolutely crazy. Another very, very, very short story. When Mayor Briley became the mayor, it turns out former Mayor Barry left a huge budget deficit, and he had to handle it, and it was a big deal, and everyone was mad at him. Everyone's still mad at him. The police department keeps putting up a bunch of billboards about how they hate the mayor, which is very funny. But he needed to like make some money fast, and so he was trying to sell some land Some just like
so he was trying to win some street races.
So he got his car and his crew and he went racing. Anyway, it was this story about these pieces of land that were going to be sold, and then they were talking about the council people of those two districts for where the two pieces of land were going to be sold. And in the Tennessean, it said Councilman whatever is not against it. And I was like, is this a typo or a terrible way to write this? Like, it was like, he's not against it. And there's that sort of stuff is all over the Tennessean, and it drove me insane because it's just like, hey guys, I know sometimes you say the wrong words. This is kind of like the most important one to not mess up, like, because I don't know I don't understand what you're trying to convey, because if it's a typo, it's the complete, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because usually a typo is like all that happens is like you notice it and go, oh, okay, like from context I can get what's going on, but it's like uh-oh, you're so bad at typos that this is a typo that actually affects the context.
I lit the entire content of the article. I don't understand because of this one sentence. Like if you would put whatever, it's a typo, but I know there are typos in the Tennessean because I see them. And then, so I was like, I don't trust it to always have it right. And it doesn't make any sense to write not. That doesn't seem like what you would write, right? Like you would not write not. You would just say he is against it. But he is not against it. Yeah. But also, not is
they're trying to be cool and clever.
You get me? Because, like, he is against it is one opinion. He is not against it is a different opinion.
He is not
against it is a third and different opinion. So, like, I don't know which of the three you meant. Like, I have no idea.
Isn't he is not against it being that he is for it?
No, not necessarily, because
I guess you're right, because
I'm
it's
not against it. Like, I'm not for it. But.
Saying not is like accompanied by that shrug emoji, like like
that's what I just did. Yeah, I just did that, like, physically, like, I'm not against it. So that's why it's so frustrating to put there, because it's like, guys, if that's what you mean, have a more, first of all, don't have typos, and have a more clear way to put it, because I don't know the content of the article, which is like what I was looking for, which is like, hey, how does the city council feel about this? Because they're the ones that are going to vote on it. Anyway, I'll look into that documentary. There's a motorcycle club that, like, is in my neighborhood. And so like every, any like clear night, you'll just see 25 motorcycles and like four-wheelers just doing wheelies all down the street, and you just hear them just and they're just moving, and there's just like 25 dudes all doing wheelies, and like people who are like able to, like, they're all the way back, they can like touch the ground, and you're just like, that's so you're going so fast, and it's so dangerous. But it's like cool. It's just like dudes who love motorcycles, and they're just in the neighborhood. And I don't know that maybe they're doing illegal street racing as well, but like it's just this little like kitsch of I don't know if they're from my neighborhood. They show
but you could probably ask them. I feel like they would definitely know.
They seem cool. I feel like if I saw them at a stoplight, I'd be like, hey.
Hey, do you know any good illegal street races? Also, do you have any...
What do you drift for?
Also, do you have any illicit materials that I can purchase?
I'm sorry, you go. You tell your joke now. You go.
Oh, I just said, do you have any illicit materials you can purchase? Because you're like saying, is it an illegal street race? Would be like, I'm a cop.
Oh my gosh. In the article from the Tennessean about the Vice documentary, they say that one of the crews, which is called Kingpin, is started by a mother and her two teenage sons. Her quote, as if they saw the Fast and Furious movies and thought, what if we did that though? Her quote is, it's all about family.
Oh my gosh.
That's like her deal. So, it's like, she's heard the street racing thing about family.
Oh my gosh. I am glad you know just enough about the Fast and Furious saga to where, like, her introduction, the first couple minutes feels like a sketch, because it just, all the people are like, man, when I first saw a car, like, I was like, those things go fast, and I wanted to go fast. And I was just like, okay, yep. And then when you meet that lady, the very first thing she says, she goes, it's about family. If you join our crew, you're not a member of our crew, you're our family. And I was like, get out of here.
You can have any beer you want as long as it's Corona.
And you have any beer you want as long as it's Corona. Man.
Yeah, so no, I'll look into that. I've never seen anything about illegal street racing.
Yeah, dude,
honestly,
do
don't
that.
think it's really that big a deal here.
Honestly, I mean, I think it's more of it is them trying to take a culture that is more prevalent in the West Coast, and they're trying to bring it to the South, I guess. Yeah.
If it's not clear, I follow Nashville politics like mildly.
Yeah.
And I can hear the motorcycle gang. They're not a gang. I always say that, and that's not what they are. They're a motorcycle club. They're not a gang in any way. Like, there's nothing about them that is a gang, but I always think motorcycle gang when I think a group of motorcycles. Anyway, I can hear the motorcycle club outside my house. But I follow Nashville politics mildly, and I have never once seen anyone talking about
not one politician being like, yes, our old mayor did have an affair, but side note, we got to deal with these street gangs. They're stealing all of our DVD players out of the back of semi trucks.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like it's not. I mean, maybe it's a thing, but it doesn't seem like a thing.
I will say this: the camera angles were all very to the ground, so there was no like overhead drone shots or whatever. So I couldn't get a good idea of how many people were there. But
that might be purposeful,
yeah. But based on like, it just seemed like it was like a million people were just out hanging out, watching these cars go fast.
As far as I can tell, it's just been that one dude on the highway who did donuts, and he might have just been losing his mind. I don't.
But then again, okay, so I've been looking at this car, and this is a nice looking car, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't some like rinky dink like 1991 Honda Civic. Like this seems to be a car. I just bash Honda Civics for no reason. This seems to be a car that is designed with intention, like the intention of these donuts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's not his first time doing donuts, but he's not in, for example, a Hobby Lobby parking lot.
That's true. Are these? Yeah, on the highway.
He's on the highway. He's on
also in this picture. On this picture, are there police in this picture? Is that what I'm looking at?
You're not. You're looking at just like two dudes on the street, like who are also parked there. But it's the highway.
Okay, I just assumed. Okay, that's really funny because I thought originally, does that one car? This is okay. So what I'm seeing is a car doing donuts on the highway. You can imagine.
You know what cars are. You know what.
Yeah, and one of the cars in the fairground of the picture, it has looks like green tinted lights under it.
All right, let me Google the picture again. Maybe. I don't know. It's the highway. It seems like a weird place to do your street racing.
I'm saying that there is a conspiracy and you need to go out and find it. You need to do some investigative reporting and find out what's really going on in your city and what the new mayor is hiding. I'm saying the new mayor, whatever the vice, forgot his name.
His name is Mayor Briley. But
Mayor Briley is covering this up because Mayor Briley is taking his life 1/4 mile at a time.
All right.
That's a fact.
Well, see you bye forever.
See you bye forever.